TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop, come on, baby, higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
From the ECSI Sports Studios and the #1 sports investors in America, we bring you the closing bell. As the market closes, legends Jeff Dawson and Riley Magnuson bring you all the sports investing tips for tonight's matchups. If you want to learn more from the two legends at the desk, make sure you stay tuned to the closing bell.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and the closing bell with another good friend, colleague, Mr. Southside Riley himself. As we call it Re-Entry Monday, we're going to get everyone caught up on what's going on and what's not going on. College football game tonight, North Dakota State versus Montana State in the FCS Championship. We'll tell you there's a lot of steam coming in on Montana State, now up to 4 on DraftKings with a 58 and a hook. Be careful there. We'll talk about that. And the coaches fired, who's in, who's not, who's getting interviews, yada, yada, yada. And there's some football games on Thursday, Friday, and of course the NFL playoffs start this weekend. Shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. WagerWire, head on over to Google Play, download the app. It is free. Viva Tequila Seltzer. The East Coast is cuckoo for coconut. And Atlanta Steaks and Seafood. Jump on over to Facebook. Introduce yourself to Terry Smith. While you're there, head on over to atlantasteaksandseafood.com. Place an order today. Use promo code STEAKS10. Get 10% off that order. Order tonight. You'll be cooking by Thursday or Friday, or grilling, I should say. He's got an amazing product. Customer service second to none. Tonight I have lamb chops for me and the family, so I can't wait. So without further ado, let's bring him in. Mr. Riley Magnuson. What's up, champ?
What is up, my friend? Happy, been a while on for a re-entry Monday here, as you call it here. The holidays and whatnot got to us, but it's an interesting one. We got no Monday Night Football obviously tonight, but we've got plenty to talk about from this past weekend. What's coming up? We got this week, like you said, Thursday games, Friday games, FCS championship tonight, which has always had my heart as an alum of an FCS program. So I'm ready to rock and roll. We got not a must-watch college basketball slate, but in these neck of the woods in Big Ten country, you might say otherwise. So plenty of stuff to talk about today.
Well, I'll jump right to it. Patriots do what they do best. Bazooka Joe Milton looked great, by the way. Anyone looking for a quarterback or a potential backup quarterback, call the Patriots. And we'll shop Joe Milton. Literally can throw it 80 yards in the air. I've seen it done. Guy has had a great game. But the big story is 90 minutes. Now, they call it Black Monday here in our lanes. All the coaches wake up in the morning, they head to the GM's office, and they talk about the season, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then you wait to hear if you're coming back and up. Patriots didn't wait 90 minutes, and Gerard Mayo was fired. I think a lot had to do with the fact that Mike Vrabel got an interview on Friday with the Jets. So the truth of the matter was this. Gerard Mayo was coming back. He was put in a year early. Bill was supposed to be coaching this year, and then we were supposed to pass the torch to Mayo this year. Win the opening game against the Bengals, shocked the world, shocked about 5,000 people in the Surfer Survivor as well. Not a good year. But here's the telltale sign. All the people that I'm intact with, Mayo was coming back. Well, last Saturday, they got flexed into a Saturday afternoon game against the Chargers.
Oof.
Mr. Kraft comes in every game, home game, in a helicopter. He did a double take of the parking lot. No tailgating, no cars, no fans. He's in his press box looking, the whole upper bowl, the 300 section, empty. So all last week, the rumblings were saying, this is a 50-50, this is a 50-50 here. I'm going to say by Thursday or Friday, the cat was out of the bag that he was a goner. Now, 90 minutes after, they didn't wait. If you looked at the press conference after the game, Mayo, all his answers were 2 and 3 words, 2 and 3 words. And this is just my take now, Riley.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Riley, I'm going to say Gerard knew he was fired and he had to coach that game. It was almost like Lovie Smith a couple of years ago that gave the Texans the finger and said, hey, you're going to fire me? Well, I'm going to ruin your number 1 pick here, and I'm going to win the game. And the Patriots slide to 4. It doesn't matter. You know, Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, and then someone will slide up to 3. You can get Travis Hunter, you can get the Arizona wide receiver. But what you really should be doing is trading down 2 or 3 times in the first round, stockpiling draft picks for next year and the year after, because not a good draft. But thoughts on Mayo, the 90 minutes, and then Peterson right after him.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth with the Lovie Smith situation there. So I think that's totally fair to say that he knew that was coming when it came, especially 90 minutes after, like you said. It was we were still enjoying the afternoon games when we heard that news, and so yeah, you know, you almost just waiting in the coach's room there, or getting the call to the owner's room as soon as the press conference is over. So I think. Like you said, I didn't hear that story of him, you know, kind of seeing the parking lot and the lack of energy 2 weeks ago. I didn't hear that. But that game was an absolute atrocity. Even if you are trying to get the number 1 pick, it's an embarrassment when you have seemingly have your guy in Drake May. You still want to put some competitive film on tape and get some momentum. Some of these teams that have done that the past few years, it speaks volumes there. And they obviously didn't really do that. Not to mention, you know, you didn't get that assurance that Gerard Mayo is the guy to build that team around. And, you know, going forward, it's a fresh start. You don't want to obviously do that same kind of coaching carousel that some of these other teams. Again, the Bears might be totally fine going forward, and they might find their guy and have a happy marriage with Caleb Williams and whoever it is. But, you know, the Bears, the last decade, 3 different coaches for 3 different first-round picks. Or you know what I'm trying to say, the first year coach, and then switching to a new coach in that guy's second year. So you obviously don't want to start that type of carousel, but when it's not right, you can tell it's not right. And I think there was, you know, maybe Gerard Mayo has a place in this league as a head coach somewhere along the line. He's obviously pretty young, but it wasn't working out, and I don't think it would have worked out going forward. Now. The Patriots obviously have a great opportunity to. If Mike Vrabel is the answer and that's what they want and both parties want, then I'm sure they will. We obviously know how good of a culture he can build. So just from that standpoint, I think that is pretty important to either got to pair your guy with the quarterback guru, the offensive guru, or find the guy that's going to put that culture together that everything kind of just falls in place around. And I think Vrabel is that guy in a lot of ways there.
Shout out to Richard Populous, Connecticut in the house. Watching tonight. Go Huskies, go. Great show, Jeff and Riley. Yeah, culture. That's a great word there, Riley, because the successful new head coaches this year, we talked about it all season long. Dan Quinn, what did he do? He brought in Kingsbury. He brought in someone to handle the offense. And again, Ben Johnson will be coming for this interview. I was told that there was a wink deal with the Jaguars there. Now, Peterson out, the GM still there. I want to tell everyone this. Patriots are wondering why, Patriot Nation, why Elliot Wolf wasn't fired. The GM has put together 9 months of work and scouting reports and film sessions for last year's college season. So when you hire your new head coach, he's going to want to bring in his own staff, whether it's Josh McDaniels, whoever. If I'm the Patriots and Robert Saleh wants to be my DC, come on in, because we're paying for a staff this year. We're not going to get Patricia's, judges of the world. You know, if they bring back McDaniels, they bring back McDaniels. But my point is, Elliot Wolf is gone, guys. He is like the locals. Felger said it best. You can't fire the whole building. You still need someone to turn the lights on and lock up at the end of the night. You still need people there to take care of day-to-day business leading up through the Super Bowl and the combines, and then, of course, the draft. So Elliot Wolf, probably all his power has been taken away. Vrabel's going to come in. They're going to listen, and then they're going to go through the process. Now, guys, there's the Rooney Rule in full effect here. So you can't just bring in Mike for an interview and call her and then go viral tomorrow and say, we hired Mike Vrabel. No. You have to go through the process. And I can guarantee you this, Riley. On Friday, when word was out that Mike Vrabel was in the building of the New York Jets, there was someone in the Patriots building that once he left that building, picked up the phone. Hey, Mike, are you really interested in this job? Okay. Oh, by the way, all right, we'll see you early next week. And then, oh, by the way, yesterday Mayo was fired.
Right. And don't forget, I mean, Rex Ryan's already talking. He's talking like he's got the job locked up. So, that one's already spoken for there. But, no, it was interesting. And, obviously, we got halfway through the day and they were still asking Antonio Pierce, if he felt comfortable, like he was sticking around. And he's like, nobody's told me anything yet. So, maybe we get a little extension for a couple of guys as far as Black Monday is concerned. But Doug Peterson on the outs. I think a lot of people probably expected that midseason, but one way or another, that's going to be a turning of the page and kind of one last opportunity to try and maximize Trevor Lawrence, because obviously these last couple of years has been kind of a dumpster fire in a lot of ways. And a lot of his tenure, obviously Trevor Lawrence has had some good moments and had a couple of good stretches, but at the end of the day, there's been some dumpster fire going on. Whether that's his fault or not is not necessarily what we're talking about here. Is that who would you put on that short list other than maybe Ben Johnson? Who would you put on that Jacksonville short list? Is anybody that interested in that job?
It's intriguing. They have an owner that will spend money. They got a big checkbook. Don't forget, he brought in Urban Meyer. He brings in Peterson. Johnson is intriguing. Who else? I'm going to tell you a name where again, I put on the short list for New England. Obviously, Ben Johnson and Vrabel. And everyone looks at me like I have three heads here. Don't forget, Ben Johnson has never head coached. I'm not comparing him to Mike Vrabel. But my point is, every time someone left the Belichick tree and went on their own, they failed. It's not that easy. Ben's got a great situation right now, even though he's a genius. Look at the Kingsburys of the world. Look at some of the other offensive gurus now to come and put your team together.
Right.
Okay. It's not that easy. It's just not click and play. So this is a gentleman that's had a phenomenal year. Phenomenal. He's been a head coach before. He did well, but there was some rumblings, there was some stuff going on in the office space here. I'm talking about Brian Flores. His Minnesota defense until last night was phenomenal. We'll talk about that game, of course. When I was talking AFC East, he did well in Miami. He knows the division. And people forget here in New England, the 2 decades, we started the dynasty from the defensive side. Yeah, we had Tom Brady, but we also had Bledsoe. So my point is, the Teddy Bruschi's of the world, the Ted Johnsons of the world, the Willie McGinnises, the Seymours, the Laws. It was the defense first, and then Tom Brady and the offense. So Mike Vrabel most likely will be the guy. I'm telling everyone here, don't discredit Brian Flores. He's already had a bite of the apple. And yeah, you need the quarterback, but you also need a defense. Just ask Joe Burrow, who's AKA Dan Marino right now. You get to the Super Bowl second year. Will he ever get back to the Super Bowl? It's great to pay Chase. Go ahead and pay Higgins. Between Burrow, Higgins, and Chase, you're going to have like $120 million tied up in 3 guys. Who else are you going to pay?
Right. No, that situation is going to be tough, and I think the world of Joe Burrow. But Flores is going to get a job somewhere. I mean, Chicago sounds pretty damn interested in Flores. And like you said, I know there's been some rumblings this last year about how he handled Tua, and it didn't sound that great. But take that aside from it, Flores was dealt a terrible, terrible hand in Miami. I can't remember if it was the year that he came in or one of the years, but just an absolute tank job that he was a part of one of the years there. That was absolutely abysmal and not anything that he did wrong. So as a defensive coach, I think he's fantastic and could create that culture. And then it's, you just got to get the pieces around him. So I do think he is going to get a job as a head coach next year, Brian Flores. I saw rumblings that the Bears were trying to interview Mike McCarthy for their opening. That is an interesting one. And as a Packers fan who loves Mike McCarthy and has a Super Bowl ring with Mike McCarthy, I would welcome that. I know Packer Nation would welcome that to go to Chicago. I think it's a guy that raises the floor of an organization, but the ceiling obviously is questionable for Mike McCarthy. And at this point, if he hasn't been fired from Dallas, I do expect him to be back in Dallas next year.
Well, and then we get the retreads. You talk about the Rex Ryans of the world. Pete Carroll desperately wants a shot at Chicago.
Yeah.
A name to keep out for. And I'm going to say this. I think he's floating his name out this year, and he'll do one more year of penance, and then he'll be a coach next year, and that's Gruden.
Yep.
I think Gruden, with Barstools, they brought him on. He's doing an amazing job. He wants to coach again. I think he'll get a couple interviews. They'll float him around. And then next year, he'll stick with Barstools doing what he's doing. Next year, he'll be a head coach. And the other thing to keep an eye on, Vrabel is coming to New England unless they do something wrong here. But Tom Brady, 10% owner of the Raiders, was already on the recruiting trail for Vrabel as well there. So there was talks about him trying to bring Vrabel over, and they'll have an early pick if they want a quarterback, obviously, there. So it's going to be interesting. You're hearing all these names. Mike McCarthy kind of surprised me. Jerry Jones steals $500,000 from Cooper Rush. He needed like 3 or 4, possessions to get $500,000. Plays Trey Lance last night. So it's a mess out there. It's a circus, Riley. How's that?
Yeah, a circus is a good word for it. And but we do have some fun games this upcoming weekend that we'll be, I'm sure, talking about later in the week here. My Packers, the Sunday afternoon game against the Eagles going into town. Christian Watson, unfortunately, still made of glass. No ACL. ACL tear is going to hurt it, which I don't think dooms the Packers, but I think they showed the graphic. I can't remember if it was the entire season or not, and I think it was. It was like 8.9 yards per play with them, 7 yards per play without him. So it is a blow, and I mean his numbers don't pop off the charts at you, but just a guy that can make the defense respect him in the deep pass game, and that obviously is taken away to some degree. So going to have to get creative and figure out some ways there. But obviously Packers, Jordan Love, I think will be fine. Didn't hear too much, obviously, today as far as his throwing hand is concerned. So I've got some optimism, but not going in with as much momentum as I would like, my friend.
Well, it's funny because look ahead line before last week was 1.5, 2, which I thought was a little low. Don't forget, this is the rematch from week 1 in Brazil. I've been talking to you for a couple of weeks now, and more from a fantasy perspective, but I had lost some luster in the Packers and their offense. I think they've become way too Jacobs reliant and heavy. I don't understand. Did Jaden Reed sleep with the coach's wife or something? He's just been MIA. Now you lose Watson. I know you got a good tight end. Now insert Bo Melton, insert Wicks. I get all that. Romeo Dobbs. that line ballooned to 5.5. And my initial thought with that line is two things. Either Love's not playing or he's going to try to play, and that elbow's a little more than expected. In Vegas is getting out and ahead of that, looking for Packer money.
Yeah, no, it's possible. I didn't hear too much about it today. I mean, he didn't look great when he was warming up, but he was warming up as if he was trying to go back into the game yesterday. So I don't know. I think I it could also be some of it, the lack of momentum going into it, dropping to the 7th seed. So I'm curious to see how it goes. I actually, especially the way we saw Malik Willis yesterday, I think the line would be worse, in my opinion, if Jordan Love was out of that one. But that's just me. The Packers are very, very run reliant with Malik Willis in there, and did not look fantastic. He had a couple of good throws, but did not look fantastic yesterday there.
Mr. Saylor, Russell Saylor, Trey Lance, Christian Watson, are those the signs I need to double down on North Dakota tonight? Bryce Lance, TD. Russell, I like where your eyes are. I said on the intro, a lot of steam coming in on Montana State. It is now 4 on DraftKings, 3.5 everywhere else with a 58.5. I'm looking at the North Dakota State team total over the 27.5. If you're going to give me 4 in this game, I will gladly take it. I'll sprinkle a little beer and pizza money on the dog there. Talked about games. You talked about Thursday, Friday. We talked about the weekend of NFL, UFC week. I wouldn't be doing my justice if I didn't talk about Hideki Matsuyama. Was it 35 under? And takes the century. A guy that, a couple years ago beats Augusta, the tip from the caddy, a day that I'll never forget there. But shout out to Hideki Matsuyama.
Yeah, not only that, him and a few of these other guys that are at the top. Obviously it's going to be a forgotten tournament in 3 months here, the Century in the first week of January. But for some of these guys, Matsuyama has had injury issues these last couple of years. Putting that out there this opening weekend of 2025 is a great sign that he could have an awesome year. Same thing with maybe not same circumstance, but Colin Morikawa, 32 under after the kind of middling in certain aspects, not really breaking out as we thought he might have these last couple of years. Sungjae continues to just be solid, and then our guy Ludwig Oberg, obviously 24 under, top 5. Kind of a sign that maybe not a sophomore slump for old Ludwig there. So really intrigued by what I saw from some of these guys going forward into the year. That some of these guys might have maybe not a resurgence because they weren't down, but kind of a back to kind of playing top 10 golf consistently for at least Matsuyama and Morikawa there.
Yeah, and Brady Kannon shot out Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific or Vegas time, as we like to say. Comes on our show, Tea Time Wages on the Breakfast Bankroll. First selection he gave out, Hideki Matsuyama, so hats off to him on the pre-flop win there. An under-over of 30 and a hook set by the world's best, Jeff Sherman at the Westgate, and it flew over there. They needed some wind that they expected on Thursday, and they never got it. So a definite birdie fest. One more week in Hawaii, then they'll schlep back into the States, and I think in California, and they'll have to play in California instead of Hawaii there. Talked about college hoops. My UConn Huskies, a gritty effort yesterday. They were at home, in stores, against a Providence team. Now, the caveat was their sensation, Mr. Liam McNeely, out high ankle sprain for this month. I think they were down 8 at half, and it was not looking good. They had a strong second half to beat Providence here. There is a couple Big Ten games tonight in college hoops. Wisconsin at Rutgers, Wisconsin -2. I think they got beat up pretty good over the weekend. And then Ohio State at Minnesota. You and I know I couldn't bet a Minnesota game with tomorrow's newspaper. It doesn't matter. Ohio State, 5-point favorite there. I will tell you, I got the banana in the tailpipe yesterday from Mr. Benson at the Circuit. If you're listening, I know you are. You got me good. I woke up to an overnight 1.5 move on Northwestern at Purdue. And now I had Providence team total over on the desk, and I took that move over as precedence. First flash 11-3, I knew I was in for a long game. And thanks for playing there. Purdue on Sundays, it doesn't matter. At home, forget about it. What are you seeing in the Big Ten, Riley?
Yeah, I'll start with tonight's games and then kind of go a little off the cuff after that. Wisconsin Rutgers. I believe Wisconsin's 0-2 in the conference, so dying for their first win. This would be, or I'm sorry, they're 1-2. They beat the doors off Iowa on Friday night. That's why that was their first Big Ten win. So kind of a different style of play coming in into Wisconsin, and they flex their muscles there. Typically, when they put that type of good performance together, and we're talking about another middle of the pack team or bottom half pack of the team like Rutgers, they typically put together two straight nice performances. So I'm kind of torn on this one. The number to me gives me some concern for Wisconsin, Jeff. The gut and what I expect from Wisconsin going forward leads me to think that they should be good tonight and have a good game tonight. Rutgers, a little up and down. Their schedule's been tough. They've had a couple of ugly losses. They've had a couple of nice wins as well. Just lost at Indiana by 10 on Thursday. So I'm a little torn on this one. My gut tells me, without looking at numbers, that I think Wisconsin should be fine. But the number, I'm a little concerned about the number in that one. Ohio State, Minnesota. I'm also not going to try and predict the Minnesota game. All I will say is Ohio State, who I think they are also 1-2 in conference, can't really afford to lose this one if they want to be whether or not contender is the right word or just a tournament contender. This is one that would be not a very good loss. And I don't know if it would go on a bad loss resume necessarily, but putting yourself in a 1-3 Big Ten hole as you're trying to be a tournament team would be an ugly one. So I expect Ohio State to win tonight, but going to Minnesota if the crowd is rowdy enough is never easy. But you said it, and I will second it. I'm not trying to pick a Minnesota game here. Illinois right now, though, obviously I'm a little bit of a homer for Illinois, but that looks like the best team in this conference. I don't know if easily is the right word. This is going to be a really, really hard-fought season in the Big Ten here, but the way they are playing, they have emerged as I don't want to call them a title contender by any means, but an Elite Eight contender type team that can make a deep run and knock off some teams. And maybe I'm just trying to avoid bias here, but at the end of the day, they go into Oregon this past weekend. They stay on the West Coast, go into Washington, who's not fantastic, but we've talked about some of these traditional Big Ten teams going out west, or vice versa, the West, Pac-12 teams coming in into the middle of the country in these January games. As far as doesn't matter how good you are, that's going to be a tough road stretch, and they go into Oregon, who is really, really good. And then, it's still a tough environment in Washington, and get the win there is really, really impressive. So they've got a 2-game homestand that they need to take care of business on, and they'll probably be a top 10 team come next week. So that obviously is really awesome to see right now. You talked about Purdue. We won't talk too much about them. They are a solid team that really just a solid team that doesn't have Zach Edey. I mean, they're doing it a little differently than they have, obviously, without him, but the ceiling for them, I don't know what it is, but at the end of the day, that's a tournament team, and it's a solid team. Michigan State's the one that's also kind of rounding into form. I've yet to see them. It's been a while since we've seen them with a true test. Going back to the Maui, just looking at their schedule, they haven't had a real test. Had an easier start to their Big Ten schedule, and they've taken advantage of it. They beat the doors off of 2 or 3 of these teams so far. We really won't see a big test from them until Illinois comes to town on the 19th. So Michigan State is going to build up a nice collection of wins here against kind of the bottom half of the Big Ten here. And then it'll be the second half of the Big Ten that we'll kind of see and get that true measurement of what they actually are and how good they are. But they are a good team. Obviously, we always talk about them as far as, they might take a couple licks in the first month of the season against these non-conference teams, and then January and February, they're going to get rolling. It does seem like that's going to be the case now. But again, got to see what it looks like against some of the better teams in the Big Ten here coming up in a few weeks here.
And Magic Johnson came out, I guess, and said to the world that he's offering his checkbook to Izzo and Michigan State, and says it's time. We've waited long enough, so he's going to be a big part of the nil checkbook deal moving forward. And as Rothstein always says, January, February, Izzo for March, and so we're waiting for that. It's been a while. So I was looking at the Ken Palm stats here for four factors, which usually is a good idea of who has a good chance to get to the Final Four. And the first Big Ten team is at 11. That's Purdue, with Wisconsin at 12, and then Illinois at 19 and Tennessee at 20. And Tennessee has just looked like a wagon this year. But again, I did give out Illinois on Sports Grid as a dog last week. So I was happy with that. I do think they're the team to beat, but tough conference. And as the season progresses, that trip to Oregon is never easy.
No, and that's what makes those West Coast trips so impressive if you can handle them, regardless of who you're playing. So, no, it's been fun so far. Indiana is the one that's kind of reemerged as starting to play really solid again here. So curious to see what we get out of them. Over the weekend, though, man, we don't need to go too deep into a college basketball hole. But speaking of Tennessee and Auburn. I think it's 3 weeks or so until we get that matchup, but those two teams are looking like a wagon, equal wagons right now.
Gonna be scary. It really is. Right now, if I go back to stats, I'll go to efficiency. No, actually, I don't want to use that one. We'll go to the four factors. Auburn 1, Connecticut 2, which they're not the Connecticut of last year, guys, so pump the brakes there. Florida, Alabama, Kentucky, Gonzaga. Villanova's the outlier, and they had a great game yesterday. Iowa State, Duke, Texas Tech. Haven't even mentioned, again, the likes of a Tennessee or a Houston. Keep an eye on Marquette, people in the Big East.
Yeah.
I watched them against Providence, and they scared the crap out of me. I think their guards are going to give UConn all they can handle there. I'm going to go over to the NHL tonight, give everyone some team total. Short slate tonight. Washington team total over 3.5. You can get it plus 105. If you like the Devils, who have just been, I don't know what to say about the Devils. If you like them tonight, team total over 3.5, have to lay 15 cents. Couple cherries on top here. Colorado team total over 3.5 against the Panthers tonight. You can get it plus 125. And here's a diamond in the rough. Vancouver tonight, team total over 3.5 plus 135. Tread lightly there. I'm going to flip the stage to you with the NBA. Anything catch your eye?
Yeah, just looking at, I'll stick in my own neck of the woods here. Spurs in town for the Bulls. Of course, it always can have some late absences from the injury report, or to the injury report, I should say, from the game. Not really any pressing injuries on the report here. Spurs 3.5-point favorites on the road here. Spurs could really be, Wemby is playing really well. Could be a team that just starts rattling off some wins here. This Bulls team, kind of on top of that, was it Saturday night, I believe? Derrick Rose night in Chicago. Bulls get a nice win against the Knicks. I don't want to say that was their Super Bowl, but in a lot of ways that was their Super Bowl, Jeff. That could be a kind of a hangover tonight for the Bulls at home against the Spurs team, where they really exhausted a lot of effort to get that one. It was a special night for the fans. And the players kind of alluded to that after the fact. So wouldn't surprise if you see just a gigantic letdown tonight from the Bulls. Other than that, you might, I don't know if there's going to be a late injury report ad, or this Spurs team is just going to, like I said, is getting that type of respect because they're one of these teams after Christmas break where they're going to start rattling off some wins here. So I think a few factors where I'm liking the Spurs a little bit tonight here. Pistons still home favorites. 6.5 at home against the Blazers. Lose Jaden Ivey for a good period of time. Really, really tough timing for that. Not only just for the season for a scrappy Pistons team, but sets this whole rebuild back a little bit here. Cade Cunningham still playing really well. I think he had 40 the other night or yesterday, whatever day it was. So I'm staying away from that one. Kind of one of those teams where the Pistons rattle off a couple wins and now might fall back to earth a little bit slowly but surely here, unfortunately. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank what my win total is, but I don't need too many more wins for my Pistons win total this time around. I'm curious if there was any injury report that came out in the last hour or so. Was looking at Sixers and Suns before the show, Jeff. It was 3.5. Now it's 1.5. Are you seeing something?
Yeah, it's funny. Circa's now Phoenix -1, and they're benching a couple of their stars, Beal and someone else. Uh, that move only tells me one thing. I would assume Embiid is out. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
They are now. It's now Mr. Mr. Benson's. Listen, back to a pick. Pick across the board. South Point slow on the trigger, still -3. DraftKings -1, Bet Online -1, but now a pick. My guess is Embiid is out.
Got to be. I was looking at the projected for the Suns. Durant and Booker looked to be in. I didn't see Beal in the projected starters. But the Suns team, I think, has lost their last 4. They are in a spot where they need to start winning some games. But either way, obviously one where you got to be paying attention to the injury report. Orlando, big dogs at the Knicks. Knicks, vice versa, from losing in Chicago the other night, looking to bounce back. The Magic, I think any game now we're getting Paolo Banchero back to this depleted Magic team who are treading water, hanging on for dear life until one of these guys comes back. But it does seem like Banchero, not tonight, but one of these days here, this upcoming week or two, we'll get him back in the lineup, and that'll help, obviously. But still depleted outside of that. Both Wagner's one out for the year, the other one banged up. So tough stretch right now, but if they can get healthy at any point, it'll be really, really impressive. Bucks, after a great stretch, are struggling again this last week or so. Some depth issues for them. They've got Giannis and Lillard, it looked like tonight. They're 6.5-point favorites on the road in Toronto. A little sketchy there. This Raptors team is really bad. But like I said, it's a tough one to call just because there's so many depth issues and injuries with this Bucks team. So you got your two-headed monster. But not much else helping out there. So I'm staying away from that. Mavericks get the news that they're losing Kyrie Irving for the next couple of weeks on top of still no Luka Doncic tonight. 4.5-point dogs, and but no John Morant for the Grizzlies as well. So what could have been a fun one there is looking pretty ugly as far as the projected starters there. So tough to call on that one. That one could be a Mavericks. I think you got Klay Thompson in Washington and the rest of the cast, but obviously they're 2 studs. So this is not advice. This one just feels like a situation where the Mavs are going to win despite everyone fading the Mavs because no Kyrie, no Luka. But that one, and no, not actual advice. That one's just one of those. Feels like the Mavericks will find a way in that one. Heat and Kings. Heat obviously still going through the Jimmy Butler saga right now of trying to figure out if they're going to be able to trade him, the suspension, whatnot. They're 2.5-point dogs in Sacramento, who I'm not having a fantastic season, but have won their last 3 games. So the Kings starting to put some things together. Probably would have respected a bigger number for a team that's won 3 in a row and no Jimmy Butler. So I'm gonna lean towards the Heat, kind of hanging around and keeping that one close tonight, Jeff.
Yeah, 224 with the 2.5. Now 219 with the 2.5. There were some 218.5s here. People are seeing a less scoring game. The Divas keep it up. Jimmy Butler gives the piece out to the Heat. And then, Sunday, Tyreek Hill from the Dolphins says, "Hold my beer," and he gives them the piece out, and already getting recruited by CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons for Dallas. So the Divas win, and Kyrie Irving out for 2 weeks. It's usually about the time he's out for 2 weeks. We'll get pushed till the All-Star break. It's just Kyrie being Kyrie here. Looking, and I know you started and prefaced this here. The Spurs opened at 236.5, now 3. If I had one play tonight, I would be on the Spurs. Am I wrong there?
No, that's kind of what I was going for. Maybe missed out on the best possible value. Looked like it, like you said, opened up obviously shorter. But I like I said, I think it's maybe you get someone out of the Bulls, but for the most part, they've actually been pretty healthy. But you've got a Spurs team that I think is one of these teams. We talk about it every year about this time of the year. A middle-of-the-pack team that is about to start kind of breaking out and be a playoff team and look really, really good for the next couple of months. I think the Spurs could be one of those teams. Maybe not dominant. They still obviously need some pieces to help out Wemby, but he is an absolute monster. And that Bulls team, I think it's I don't want to put too much stock into it, but one of the bigger, more emotional nights that they've had in Chicago for a mediocre middle-of-the-pack team in a while the other night, and they trailed double digits, I think, the other day against the Knicks and come all the way back on that Derrick Rose night. So I think it is a letdown spot for the Bulls after that, and a spot for the Spurs team to just keep it rolling and put on a show. And you're gonna get the Wemby Express tonight, I think.
You're in Chicago. Give me the thought process. We had a potential NBA Finals yesterday in OKC. The Thunder, which I think is the best team in the NBA right now, personally. And I'm coming. Yeah, that's right. I got the Celtics right above me, right there. It's not easy to repeat. I'm not saying the Celtics are a young team. They got the same team in place. I don't. I just got issues with them. I don't know what it is. Again, you shoot 63s a night. You're going to win some games. You're going to lose some games. And I just think pound for pound, I'll take a bite at the apple with OKC, even though I think the West is stronger trying to get to the NBA Finals here. What is Chicago? What is the city of Chicago saying about the Celtics? And your thought on OKC?
Well, they I was gonna say, all jokes aside, they are kind of not in NBA mode at the moment. I mean, you've got the whole nation who's complaining about ratings. The city of Chicago is not helping out those ratings because I don't watch the Bulls on a nightly basis. I consider myself a diehard fan, but as far as, I mean, it is a knowledgeable fan base and big NBA fans. As far as the East, I think it is the consensus that the Celtics will come out of it and they'll be better off than what they are right now in a couple of months, 3 months, whatever it is now. I don't know that anyone's taking the Cavs as seriously as 31-4 would lead you to believe you should be taking them as seriously as. So I do think that everyone is kind of just penciling in the Celtics, and you can kind of take this area and run with it as far as that is concerned. Because you got Milwaukee close by here, and I think a lot of people still have belief in Giannis and the Bucks at some point to put it together, but it's clear that that's not, unless they make some drastic moves, not necessarily going to be the case this year. So, until the Cavs take a 2-1 series lead against the Celtics, I don't know that, and I'm being serious, I don't know that anyone's going to take them that seriously as far as someone they could unseat the Celtics in the East, and then obviously for the championship. As far as the finals are concerned in both conferences, I think people are taking the Thunder pretty damn seriously at what they've put on together this year, and prove. I think everyone was a believer in the rebuild that they had going on and what they were building, but now seeing it, whatever their record is, similar to what I just said the Cavs were, 30 wins, whatever it is. I think people are believing in that. You keep SGA healthy and happy, and I think he's going to be rocking and rolling. Chet Holmgren's only getting better. At Chicago, obviously, they just gave Alex Caruso a bunch of money for the next 2-3 years, whatever it is. So I think we got some love for that OKC team. But I'm with you. I think the teams in the West, I mean, Houston, unless if they make a move, that is obviously scary. You and I have talked about that. I think whether it's this year or in the offseason, they make a move to get over that hump. But it's obviously, you've got the Nuggets who are kind of middling and hanging around. If they can get another piece and get everyone healthy and get everyone on momentum, then obviously people are going to start to believe in them too. I don't know how seriously people are really taking the Lakers as far as unseating, and going on a 2-month run. I just don't think people are really buying into that. But at the end of the day, I think OKC is starting to get that love the more and more time goes on here. But I don't want to harp on it. You and I have said it, but the lack of ratings right now is a real thing, and people just whether that's the just the load management or whatever it is, or the style of play, there's not enough people that are interested in it right now, and something's got to give. Something's got to give right now.
Well, I've tied Jaylen Brown and Ime together. I think after this year, there's some way that somehow that Jaylen could actually ask for an out. We'll see what happens, of course. But I'll ask you this. I mean, Minnesota floundering, obviously. They got Ant in a cloud of dust with no Cat there. You talked about Denver. I'll ask you this. Is Jimmy Butler a piece that Houston might be able to get? And is that the missing piece? Or do you think someone else out west will scoop him up?
Whether that's the missing piece, I guess I don't know. It could be. And I think they can get him. That's a tough one because I do really and that is his I believe it was where he's born and raised, if not spent a good chunk of his life there. So I am sure, because I know even when he was in Chicago and they were shopping him around, Houston was always one of those teams that was kind of lurking there as far as being interested. So it's just interesting because you've got a team that's playing really well. I mean, if it wasn't for OKC, 23-12 for the Rockets for the season they're having would be really, really impressive. But you've obviously got this young core of guys, plus Fred VanVleet, that you might be a little nervous to mix up. But I think, and Jimmy Butler's had some baggage here and there, but when he's bought in and he's going 110%, I think this is the type of team that he actually would fit well into. And wouldn't, at least not in the first year or two. Maybe in 2-3 years if things don't go well and he's getting tired of the place, then he could blow things up. But I mean, he had the antics in Minnesota, but part of that, from all accounts, was that he just didn't kind of gel with the lack of motivation and the lack of effort that was going on in Minnesota. And now, obviously, up until this point, he's seemingly been happy in Miami and appreciated that culture. I do think Houston is at a point where they would welcome him, and it would be a decent fit in a lot of respects there, and he would give 110% and kind of be back to maybe a rejuvenated guy there in Houston.
The only reason I'm saying that, again, if they've added Butler, there goes my thought process now for 2 years. Jaylen Brown reuniting with Ime
Sure.
and being his own alpha dog there, so it will be interesting where Butler ends up. I would assume Miami wants him out of the East, ship him out West. We're all set. Thanks for playing. You gave us a few good years, yada, yada, yada. The inmates running the asylum, as always. Currently still, as Russell brought up, Montana State has been steamed to 4, minus 15 cents at DraftKings and a few other spots, meaning it might even go to 4.5. Be careful of the steam, people. Be careful of the steam there. Closing thoughts, sir.
No, closing thoughts. I don't have too much. I'm just looking at the last, 15 years of the FCS championship history here. The one thing going for Montana State is that they are hungry. They have been the runner-up in 2 of the last 3 years. And this North Dakota State program isn't quite what they were in the last decade or so, but they're still really, really, really good. They had from 2011 on, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-peat. They gave it up to James Madison, had a 3-peat, gave it up to Sam Houston, and then won in 2021. And now these last 2 years has been South Dakota State. And North Dakota State's been in some of those other ones that they didn't win. But nonetheless, I'm not ever going to count out North Dakota State. Maybe that's, like I said, I went to a school that was in the same conferences as them, was the runner-up in 2015 to Carson Wentz in North Dakota State. So I've always had a sour taste, but a very, very massive amount of respect for them. So I'll go North Dakota State. We're for some pizza and beer money tonight, my friend.
Well, it's like betting against Pat Mahomes or Tom Brady as dogs. We always try to find a way to beat them. At the end of the day, we're like, Jesus, what are we doing here? Russell says also have the most NFL QBs active of any college in the country. There he goes, NDSQBU. So that's like LSU and the wide receivers as well. Yeah. So for me, it's a new start. It's a new week. VIPs, a rough Saturday. Tough afternoon slate, and we got skunked in the evening slate. And then again, Jeff Benson got me good yesterday with that move on Northwestern. Should have had the Providence team total there, but it is what it is. It's a new week. It's a fresh start to the week. Everyone stay in your lanes. Be careful. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, Andrew McGinnis, NHL. Wager Talk. We'll be talking some NHL there as well. Wednesday morning, 11 a.m., Brady, Kannon, Tea Time Wagers. We'll be back. Riley, available Wednesday, Friday?
Yes, sir.
Closing bell on Wednesday at 5 p.m. and then Friday. We'll see what time Riley's available so we can have it sometimes a little earlier in the afternoon. So from myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Investor, one and only Riley Magnuson at Riley_Magnuson, the one. Shout out to Mr. Saylor, of course. Everyone, enjoy the fresh start, the new week. Have some fun. Stay in your lanes, and we will see you soon.